What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone is doing very well. I just want to jump on, so it's obviously been an age since I've uploaded. It's like 8 or 9 months since I obviously talked about my twin flame experience in Denver and heading out there. Okay, but what's happened since has obviously been a load of beautiful synchronicities ever since pretty much the 7th of July 2023. And if you add those numbers together, that comes to a 7. So it was a 777 portal timeline shift that I've experienced, which, as you'll see, as I'll share for the photos that I've taken in the hologram, this number just literally opening the floodgates, and I'm seeing this everywhere currently ever since that date, which is otherwise a very positive sign. And it's all tying in with the 7th year of tribulation in the book of Revelation, ever since the great sign in heaven happens back in 23rd of September 2017. And that's where I had my crown chakra pop off. Okay, so I'm very much a part of this prophecy that's being fulfilled with my awakening and everything that I've come to experience that had been written in the Bible, which is like, I'm just like, fucking hell, this is like almost too good to be true in regards to this is all simulated. It seems like I'm still part of this process, but this is obviously a script that's playing out. That I'm kind of, having to pull myself through. That's otherwise going to lead us to a very important date come 2024, which is the 8th of August. Okay, so the 888 portal. If you add 2024 together, that's another 8. Okay, which is going to lead us into the higher octave. Okay, with 7. You've got 7 diatonical notes. The 8th is the higher octave. Okay, we're coming, which is basically prophesied in regards to the wheat being separated from the tares and the crystal spiral being separated from the Metatronic spiral in Ashana Dean's teachings, the 1,000 years of peace, and the 1,000-year crystal river fail-safe bridge zone host. Okay, so this is already starting, I believe, with people's lives ever since 2020 with this shift in regards to where you're being moved to, kind of people that are coming into your life, and the information that you are coming into in order to activate your DNA. Okay, and that's certainly been the case. And like I said, when you do activate certain strands of your DNA and you kind of initiate and walk through activations, you start to see reflections of that in the hologram, because everything is otherwise just a projection from you in what is otherwise codified in your DNA, okay, as a creator being. And that is otherwise what is then reflected back to you within the hologram. So it's very much, even though you see these signs externally from yourself, it's very much an internal, intrinsic process of being able to, gauge feedback of your activations and your level and what kind of timeline you're on. Because when I came back to the UK after my false twin flame union with the fucking succubus entity, an Archon-controlled individual that was being used to literally pull me onto a lower timeline, I came back and started seeing a load of 5s. And I was on that frequency wave of a 5, which is linked to the Metatronic death science Merkaba spin rate. And it was uncanny, all these 5s coming through. So I knew I was kind of like in the trenches, and I had to do a lot of work because I was under attack. I mean, it's a few times where I was thinking, no, I'm a goner. I don't know how I've managed to kind of pull through, but I did, and managed to, pull myself out of a very, very fucking dense timeline. And things start to shift for the better come the 7th of July this year. Okay, so I just want to share that with you guys, and obviously comment on a few other things that I come to experience. As you are fully aware, what I mentioned in the last presentation with my experience with Jesus Christ, okay, with the Ark of the Covenant stargates, around Christmas, New Year, before heading back to the UK, I was reading a lot of Ashana Dean's Voyages books, okay, talking about this Ark of the Covenant, talking about Ascension, stargates, etc. And I think it was around either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, that night going to bed, I had a really lucid astral experience with a woman and being shown a stargate inside the pyramids, which obviously I've later come to find it was actually Giza. The same one Jeshua 12 used, as the woman showed me. This is one Jeshua 12 used to ascend out last time he was here. And this is the panel, this is how you control it, but you need your stargate tool. Okay, this is the only thing, and this obviously goes into the King Arthur legends of the staff, the Excalibur's sword, so to speak, right? In regards to trying to protect that in the Ark of the Covenant box, which housed this stargate tool, which could have been used to control all those Ark hub gate setups that was installed here, as and when they were installed here by the Guardians many thousands, if not hundreds of thousands years ago. Okay, so that was really quite cool to come to experience and witness. And this is why when I came back to the UK, there was a lot of Jesus Christ synchronicities coming through to the hologram as well. I remember watching a movie called Proximity, and that had Jesus Christ in it with the ETs, and why they're abducting people with similar coding to Jesus Christ, because they wanted to find out why and who this being was, because he was kind of like the god of the multiverse, of everything, personified. And so they confirmed that. So it was really interesting. And then I remember seeing like just all these TV series coming out of Jesus Christ, right, on Angel Studios, with that guy. You've probably seen him. That was being advertised, and it still is. And I remember having a dream, really weird dream, in my flat. Obviously, I was living opposite this fucking demonic voodoo witch, which was just non-stop energy attacks and energy, back and forth, battling her. Like I said, that's why it's very tough to come back to the grids here in the UK. So it's linked to Stargate 11, which is linked to Stonehenge, which is linked to Nibiru and the Niberian dialect crystal grids. This is why I did battle with Satan, who's Marduk, who lives on Nibiru, but oversees this plane from the astrals. And yeah, he shapeshifted into a red dragon. Like I said, 3.5 years since the Great Sun in Heaven. That's when all that happened. So it's playing, prophecy is fulfilling itself. You can argue about who actually wrote the Bible, but there's certainly elements of truth in that, especially with the book of Revelation, that I'm very much intrinsically a part of. Never, really pursued the Bible or anything else, but just came into these signs and events. And obviously, having gone through these experiences, looking back, connecting the dots, it's very much a part of this process. But yeah, Satan, Marduk, he's connected to obviously Stargate 11 here. It's very important for these guys because they were going to cut off all of the 4 harmonic universes within this time matrix up at Stargate 11, which is in the Lyra Cradle system, and then suck it all into their black hole systems. Okay, we've got 3 main Faller Raider races, okay, coming from 3 black hole subtime distortion hell matrices, right, who are competing to try and harness and trap as much quanta as they possibly can from our living system. Okay, so we're living in a semi-fallen system, which the mathematics are partly Metatronic, partly Christic, which is why they, the parable in the Bible with Jesus with, sowing the wheat, and then during the night, the enemy came along and sowed his seed. And they said, shall we lift up the weed? And Jesus was like, no, you've got to wait to the time of the end, to the harvest. Otherwise you would uplift the wheat with it, like the good crop. Okay, so you must let them grow together. And this is what we've been witnessing ever since this biogenesis program, since the fall in this time matrix some 250 billion years ago. If you follow Ashiana Dean, okay, his work with that history, and just tune into the encryption of that for yourself, that's certainly what's been taking place, because we have alongside us on this planet Satanists and these folks who are venerating these evil spirits and these archons who want to parasite off of eternal life, living organic mathematic creations and Christic beings, and have been doing so for many billions of years. But we're coming towards the time of the end. And so this is why it's so very important. And I'm seeing the signs, and I just want to share that with you guys. But otherwise, ultimately, stay very positive, because Jesus Christ, whatever that being is, I think there's a threefold aspect to this. With what Ashiana Dean talks about with the 3 Christ, the Christ on the crucifix, you got the Christ who ascended, and then the other Christ who's controlled by the anarchy. I believe God works in at least a threefold aspect. Okay, and so I think all 3 of those had something to do in order to provide us for the remedy for the shift that we're about to experience, right, when the separation does come. And you can argue all about this is a simulation, there is no earth. There is. This is how God's source sets up whole holographic time matrices, right? There is a mathematical structure to it. However, it has been taken over and manipulated with the Metatronic lensing and inserting their artificial light technologies in order to manipulate and run their mathematics, which are all part of the black hole technologies, which is linked to these black mirrors, unfortunately, 5G, CERN, right, and all the Merkaba spin rates, the 5.5, the 6.66. Okay, that's the blank slate technology, the B system, and that's all part of the transhumanist robots, cyborg, merging iron with clay, your flesh with metal, in regards to turning you all into a hive mind androids. And I've done battle with these guys recently in the astrals. They're starting to penetrate these fucking android robot beings disguising as humans. If you look at Westworld, they're coming into the astrals, and I've done many battles with them, working them out. They're very cunning. We're living in a time where all of the evil forces are literally in a melting pot, in a bottleneck of what's happening with the actual demons, the Gosha Book of Demons, these evil spirits that are disembodied. You got then the Anunnakis, and then got the Dracos. All right, you got all the different faller races of the ETs within manifest creation. You've got the unmanifest spirits, the demons, and it's all coming in, the androids, the Luciferian spirits with the antichristic technology, that these spirits are using to work through too. It's all here. It's all culminating. This is why we're in the times of the end. And it's very pivotal to be aware of this and set your mind and intent I'm manifesting and staying on the best possible eternal life Christic organic timeline. So when you start seeing numbers like this come through, it's just going to confirm to you and help you in regards to knowing that you're on the right timeline, and you got to just, stay strong. Might be, more trials and tribulations to come, but ultimately, if you can hold out and sacrifice and not let these guys come into your temple, you're going to be transitioning into the most beautiful, promised eternal life, and gain even more XP and probably badges of honor, as it were, and rewards based on your experience down here as a soul in order to graduate possibly into godhood or goddesshood, right? So yeah, it's all very interesting. So Jesus Christ, I remember having an experience. I woke up one morning, semi-awake in the astral still, but I knew I was kind of like overlaid in my body, still just floating there, about to wake up and integrate. And then I had this voice say, "Do you believe in Jesus?" And I said, "Yes, I believe in Jesus." And as soon as that happened, an epiphany of Jesus was stood at the foot of my bed looking at me. And I immediately woke up, and the whole house that I was staying in was rumbling randomly. And the woman that was, like I said, this voodoo witch staying opposite me, immediately started like coughing and puking. I can hear her in regards to whatever happened during that time. I got no idea what happens. But what was interesting that week, like I said, Jesus Christ was coming through pretty strong with the movies, with these TV series. And then I saw Christ the Redeemer statue be hit by lightning on the top of the head. Some photographer photographed this. I think this was around like March time, around the spring equinox. And so then I had, I think a few nights after that event, again, another dream where I was shown the Garden of Eden, okay, that exists like above all of the stars. You imagine space where all the stars are and galaxies, and kind of manifest creation is then able to unfold and be created. There was the Garden of Eden with the snake. It was like this beautiful paradise, but it was kind of existing, floating above all of space for the planets and stars and stuff. And there was like this etheric waterfall that was falling into the space, into the cosmos, which kind of feeding the energy. And there was the snake, and it kind of zoomed down, showed all these constellations. And then there was a constellation, Jesus Christ. And I got this message that Lucifer is Jesus, all right, one aspect of, Jesus Christ. I was like, Lucifer is Jesus, and Jesus has died, i.e. Lucifer has died. He is dead. And as a result of venerating this being who was an immortal, he is now memorialized as a constellation in the stars. So I got the message that the stars in the heavens, in space, is otherwise a cemetery for immortal beings who have passed on, who have died, as like a memorial. And I remember waking up to that thinking, fuck, I actually felt this sense of loss. Like, I know this being and I've known him for a very long time, but he's actually passed on. He is dead. And they put a constellation of Jesus Christ up there in order to venerate that fact. And so I was like, whoa, that's pretty deep. And obviously at the time, so I was going under like really heavy battles, and I was on like a lower timeline. It kind of hit me pretty deeply. It took me like a week. I was like, crying quite a bit. So I really did feel this sense of loss. But otherwise it was kind of like, I guess, a needed loss in regards to stop all this fucking deception that's been going on with this serpentine spirit, the shapeshifter that is, Lucifer, who has done what he's done. Let's just wait and see what happens. But I found that very, very interesting. Because Jesus Christ, like I said, in the prophecy is meant to return. So if you follow Nashi on the Dean's latest updates, all the stargates are open. And whether he's going to come back through a stargate, possibly. Okay, that means that it's all connected to the high God worlds in the heavens now, that beings can start coming back in once they come back online, whenever that's going to be, which is either going to be end of this year or up until maybe around May 2024. So anything can happen. So it's always best to prepare yourself for all outcomes that may come to pass. And we don't know. No one knows what's going to look like. I think the shift has already started to happen ever since 2020. We know the split in regards to who followed the narrative that was being run at that time and who didn't, knew what was going on, still in tune with the higher self and their soul self. And that's, I think it's just going to become more and more evident. And there's going to be like a falling of the axe when there's going to be a huge noticeable shift like I've been experiencing, especially ever since the 7th of July. So up until that point, 7th of July, I was in a lot of battles. So I'll get into this now. 7th of July came, it was like a really beautiful day. So I knew there was an energetic portal in time and space surrounding this date. That obviously came to pass. I cleared out all the weather because it was just overcast up until that point. We've had like a really rubbish summer. And this day came and I was like, wow. Headed down to the beach. Woman ran up to me randomly, tapped me on the shoulder, out of breath, saying, "Are you heading down to the beach?" And I said, yeah. She said, "Oh, can I give you this, please?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." She said, "It's inhabited, so can you please offer it back into the ocean?" And I said, yeah, no problem. So she kind of like entrusted me with this seashell. And I was thinking, okay, God, yeah, okay. I feel the connection. I thought I'd lost you for a bit. I haven't kind of had any synchronicities for like 6 months, just been battling satanic forces and trying to get out of this 5-5 fucking Metatronic timeline. And then this day comes along. It's just like a huge shift for me. Beautiful weather, beautiful little synchronistic moment, gifted a seashell, which, under spiritual meaning, it's all linked to divine protection. Offered it back into the ocean and just, absorbed the light codes that are coming in that day. Down by the beach, did some grounding and some like prayer work, meditation. And it was the start of a huge change for me, which happened within like a week. I remember going for another walk and saw this car, Galaxy car 777. So I immediately got this message that something's coming. So I was like, okay, I was ready to receive what's coming, obviously staying open but protected. And what basically happened is my mum moved out to Australia and she found out she got cancer, which was like stage 4. And so that obviously compelled me to head out there, okay, and actually head back to my motherland where I was born in Brisbane, right, along that east coast of Australia, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, get into this in a minute. And Australia, AU being, the symbol of gold is AU, okay, I'll get into all this, which obviously was kind of like tying along with this, okay, I got this message that something's coming. I even had someone on, I think, a YouTube channel called Something's Coming, sign up to or like follow me on my channel, on my other channel, like a few days after getting this message. I was like, okay, I know something's coming. Then obviously found out mum's got cancer. And so I obviously book a hotel to book my flights to head out there. But what was weird, about a week before I head out after booking my flights, and again, I booked the hotel and I remember seeing like, it came to $777. I was like, okay, this is coming, all right, these sevens are starting to come through now. I see. Anyway, I go before going away, I try and get my car MOT'd, which is just part of, you've got to do this every year in the UK. And otherwise dropped it off to the guys and they went to start it and it just went kaput. Like all of a sudden just went kaput. And that same morning, I find out someone hacked my account and drained all of my money in my bank. And I was thinking, you've got to be kidding me. I've got to be heading to Australia in a week. So I was like, I'm being tested here. Like there's some kind of demon spirit that is like really trying to stop me heading out there for the grid works and activations that were going to come. Obviously disguised under this kind of emergency to head out just to help support my mum for the initial phases of learning what she has and getting on the healing path again, which she is. She's doing amazing, which is good. And so, yeah, I was just like, fuck. So the car was completely kaput. Managed to get the money back, which is good. But these are all tests, right? But just a quick subplot to this. When I came back after going to Australia for 2 months, I managed to get the car mechanic out to get it started because it wouldn't even start, right? There's something wrong with the electrics. Once it took an hour for us to work out how to get it started. Once it started, it was running. We could identify that it was an alternator issue. That night, I went to bed. I had an experience in the astrals where I was driving the car in the astrals, right? But it had a mind of its own and it almost crashed into another car wherever I was. And these people got out of the car really pissed off. And I was trying to explain to them that, no, it wasn't me. It's the car. There's something wrong with the car. And the woman was kind of like, well, let me have a look. And she basically was educating me to say that there was an evil spirit working in your car to fuck things up that you need to extract and expel. And so we otherwise had this like little lesson where we had this spirit, we managed to extract it from the car and have it in this room. And it was otherwise invisible, but it was like a pure spirit form, but you kind of see it, so it started warping the matter behind it as it was floating around as a free, unmanifest spirit. And she said, what you need to do is stand side on to the mirror. She set this mirror up right next to me so you can see our reflection. And you've got to call it to you. She said, you've got to call it to you. So she stood next to me, call it to you now, command it to come to you and ask for its name. And then with its name, expel it back to where it came. And it goes back through the mirror. There's a portal that opened up through the mirror and it just went straight back through. So when it came to, called it to me, all I could see was this kind of like hazy apparition, this mist of this kind of like spirit. But then I looked into the mirror and I could see this demon standing in front of me. And I was like, holy fuck. And it said its name. I can't remember what its name was, but it's some weird name. And I managed to, she, with her directing me, this random woman, put it back through the portal in the mirror for where it came and kind of so it's locked away so it can't do any havoc. And it's otherwise the message that this is the reason why your bank account was hacked and your car was otherwise, rendered obsolete when it was absolutely fine working up until that point. It was just like, what I thought initially was that someone had zapped it with the frequency weapons. I've already gone through 2 PCs this year by that point and almost lost all my work due to hard drives just going kaput and things that happened when I was asking the guys that someone had to have gone inside and changed the programming of the code in order for this to happen. So I was just like, that's fucking impossible. So I was thinking, attention I'm getting with the work I'm doing, showing the truth of the banking system and helping people redeem themselves and sovereignty and stuff like this and come out from amongst them, my people, which is all about what Jesus Christ did in the Bible and what he mentions, in order to not, sell your soul, sell your body to these fucking international Jewish cabal bankers and Satan, and claim back your rightful crown, your heir, your kingship, your queenship, right, as priests and priestesses. And so I was thinking it's just frequency attacks and stuff like that. But otherwise, found out it was this demon spirit, okay, which can work through matter in this plane, as we know, and set things up in order to give you a fucking tough time. Like if you don't address, which obviously as above, so below in the higher dimensions, they still reside. So there's obviously always a higher representation of everything and anything. And as you go up through the higher dimensions, it's more animated. Okay, so inanimate objects down here would otherwise have their own consciousness, like that car that you see there that had the problem has its own consciousness higher up. This is why if you look at it, it's at Beauty and the Beast, you've got all these inanimate objects like the candle, the cup, the teapot, the wardrobe. Up in the higher dimensions, things are fully conscious. Even though they're taking on that form, they have a personality, like even fridges and stuff like this. Okay, so this is when you get into realizing the true nature of our universe and how it is all set up from consciousness, and it's just down here, we're in a very dense level. Trust me, there's even more denser planes, and that's down through the portals of the black holes, okay, where the so-called hell realms are. Things are very, very dense, but ultimately are connected to consciousness. Everything's conscious, right? Everything's created by the mind of God. All is mind, right? So yeah, I thought that was a cool little subplot. Dealing with that's kind of the folklore gremlins and evil spirits. They can work through fucking things up in your PC, even in your cars, any mechanical issues. People seldom overlook it. But when it's kind of like something like that's quite freak of an accident, thinking, how the fuck does that happen? And obviously my PC's crashing. I was thinking, there's obviously, I thought it was frequency manipulation, but obviously it was told and shown that it's to do with an evil spirit that I managed to get rid of, the little fucker. Okay, so Mirror, if you watch, I think, is it Constantine? There's a movie with Constantine, Keanu Reeves, where they show how he extracts a demon from that woman. I believe that's very true. I mean, I've shown that in the astrals, and that's how he otherwise gets rid of this demon that's possessing this woman in the opening scene, and then shatters the mirror after it passes through. I mean, whether I did that afterwards, I don't know. I woke up pretty much after I found out his name, and then just used the mirror and saw it just go through the mirror as a portal, and was probably trapped in there. We probably did smash it. So yeah, I found that very, very interesting firsthand. I've seen demons and expelled them before, but never used a mirror. But in order to, I feel like with demon spirits like that, in order to fully get rid of them, you need to use the mirror and send them back. I mean, ultimately, hope that destroys them. I don't know, because it's all well and good kind of expelling them, but they're going to still be roaming around looking for other souls to kind of, devour and fuck up their lives. So it's good to, be in that situation where you can just actually get rid of them. So if you find yourself in that situation, use a mirror, command it to come to you, because we have power over demons when you know its name. Okay, so we've been imbued with the essence and power of God, so they must respect us. And so when you know its name, you can actually control it. And that's otherwise shown as well in the Pope's Exorcist. Okay, they actually find out its name, which is quite interesting. And that's when you have power as to knowing who you're dealing with and how you can command it to head back into wherever it came from or destroy it, hopefully, inevitably. So I ended up going out to Brisbane, Australia, $777. I was like, okay, number 7. And then obviously I started seeing all these number plates, 77. And then Colorado 7. I was like, okay, I was in Colorado last year. That's interesting. And then, number 7 on SQ7. I was like, okay, it's coming through. Then I saw this art exhibition next to the river, out alongside the river at some park. And it was 7 versions of the sun. I was like, okay, 7 is obviously a pretty holy number. And then alongside that, I was watching and reading Sliders 10, 11, and 12 series with Ashiana Dean. And she goes into the deity planes of the 7 eternal, internal core cosmea suns. All right. And this otherwise helped reveal to me what happened to me and why with my so-called twin flame union back in 2022, which was the 666 portal, which I know looking back, and a lot of people after putting my videos up on this channel reached out in the comments and said that they were also in a false twin flame union too. And there was like a hijacking attempt that was happening with a lot of the, let's say, indigos that are coming in around 88, 89, 1988, 1989, because we're all turning 33 in 2022. And this is where you start to activate your avatar self to come in. It's a very integral and important time for you. So a lot of us obviously went down that path of being intercepted And there was obviously a mass kind of organized plan to do that, which is why obviously I was paired up with this succubus entity who was working through this individual in Denver, Colorado, which once you get out there, there's obviously the grids there. It's all Lucifer, it's all devil. I remember heading in, it was Devil's Tower, Devil's Pit. And you can watch that video, otherwise that kind of reveals all of this, the big Lucifer statue outside the airport, all the underground bases. And later finding out, which I'll share a video with you guys, how they were going to use it for the New World Order HQ after splitting the grids and taking back the Dragon APIN systems, which is tied into the reason why I went out to Australia. So you can read this in your own time. It goes on about the FIMS and the Adashia depths and how the true Fauntic and Tantric twin sets, when they incarnate here from the deity worlds, because I believe I'm connected to the deity planes quite high up with the fear kiss, which is the gateway of the gods, which has got 1 foot on the serpent, right, crushing its head, and then otherwise grasping the, 1 foot on the scorpion, crushing its head, which is linked to Antares. And I've had a lot of battle with Antares and Scorpio around that time, so that's where the center of the black hole is located, where these evil forces reside. And otherwise handling the serpent, it's a serpent bearer, stopping the serpent from reaching what? The crown, Corona Borealis. Okay, so this is why we're in the Corona period. This is what they're doing in 2020 with the Corona virus. Okay, so it's all about them trying to invert the rightful heirs of the kingdom of God within this time matrix to reclaim our crown. They want to corrupt it, invert it, and take it for themselves. But that's the role of the archetype of a fear kiss. Okay, which is what I've got bearing the sign of, which is why, you know, I've not been able to be defeated, because I conquered death many times now. I think 4 times now I've died, come out of body, and kind of been reset and put back in, respawn as it works. It's kind of like, no, they can't kill you. I can suffer. Don't get me wrong. I've toiled and suffered a lot, and I've felt the venom of the sting, but ultimately immune to snake venom, right? And that's the power of Ophiuchus, Asclepius, and Hercules is a deacon of that constellation as well, which is the hero's journey in order to combat the powers of darkness and keep them at bay from stopping them from like really taking hold and, you know, fulfilling their agenda of what they wanted to achieve, which was, you know, take down 4 harmonic universes and suck it into their black hole. Okay, so it's all connected. It's all part of, like I said, knowing thyself and coming into this information, especially around the 33rd birthday, where you integrate your avatar self, part of your higher self. But you must make room for it in regards to your inner work, shadow work, activations, knowledge as well can trigger it. So it's all part and parcel of the process. But this is really interesting. It goes into what otherwise happens or should happen when you find your kind of true soulmate, your divine counterpart, in order to meet up, in order to regain 66% of your soul quanta that is otherwise stored up in the deity planes, because you only come in at 33% quanta level, whereas the female counterpart carries the 66% down here and 33% up there. Okay, so what normally happens is when this so-called Aiden is about to wake up, right, the male counterpart, they're intercepted by the fallen Equerry, Succubus, White Dragon entities who tried to then dark flower them. So it's a lot easier because I've only got 33% of them to stop the rest, their 66% coming in when then they become a Yoden, which is kind of like an adept, right? You're now running on full gas, full tank, 100% of your higher self is in body down here. That's where you can do a lot of damage, which obviously is why these fallen angels and these guys and the archons work towards pairing them up with otherwise their UB white dragons down here, which can start the dark flower process, which did happen and start with me. But like I said, I managed to pull myself back out because I'm carrying the codes of Ophiuchus and the failsafe, that is the promise of divine will, in order to reset things down here and stop evil from being explored even more, for them to take over. Otherwise, all other time matrix systems will be compromised, and they just can't. You get to a point where that just can't happen. Divine will comes in, and there is this guarantee that things will be reset, which is the great cosmic reset, the second coming of the Christ, right, and the splitting of the wheat from the tares. This is what this is all about. This whole time of our incarnational cycle. It's all coming to an end. End time scripture. It's all being fulfilled. Okay, so yeah, really quite interesting. Slide is 10, 11, and 12 series. If you get your hands on that, it is really, really quite interesting in regards to twins and the deity planes and all these contracts that happen, which I've obviously put in perspective for me why I went out to Colorado and why that happened to me. But otherwise, I'm very wiser as a result of that. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger too, hell of a lot stronger, as to knowing thy enemy, right? You don't know anything until you know evil, you know nothing, okay? So very true. So obviously, some beautiful people came out of the woodwork when I came back to the UK, to kind of help make sense of what I'd just been through, and otherwise confirms, yep, Colorado distortions of the Holy Trinity, how they use the people there as pawns to try and reverse the Tantri Asia Trinity shield from anchoring again the 777D span gates through Universal Stargate 3, Earth called Charlotte 3 and Charlotte 13, Aquiel Matrix through Regional Gate 7, which is Arctura, Arcturus. Okay, well aware of that nonsense there, like that. Okay, so I was thinking, okay, there's a number 777 synchronicity there, and that's why it ties into the gates and my activation. So it's kind of like a blessing in disguise. It's like a necessary evil for me to head out there in order to pick up the gates, transmit and receive the codes to the grids, carry them back to the UK, and then carry them over to Australia, which is all part of this Dragon APIN Christic imprint. And this was otherwise in the hospital, saw a massive Metatronic cube, which again, we all know, these hospitals, there's a lot of entities lurking around, feeding off the sickness of the vibration there, which is very dense. So it was really good to kind of get out of there. When I was in there, it was obviously a pretty lucid experience of feeling these energies and entities around. It wasn't quite nice, but otherwise glad to get out of there once I was there. And I was thinking, oh, okay, yeah, once you pass through this portal into the cancer department, it's kind of like, well, yeah, that's cancer is the manifestation of Satan, and these satanic spiritual forces that, you know, have mutated and created death as a science as a result of their abomination and deformity when they fell. And going away from the law of one. Okay, so they've created death. Death is like a mutation of how things really should be in the natural fabric of mathematics. And so when I was out there as well, I was going through a presentation that this guy did on the Book of Revelation, verse by verse, which again I highly recommend going through because it's got some brilliant history, and otherwise shows again the importance of the number 7 in the Bible, right? Which is kind of like linked to God's number, so to speak, and is otherwise good to watch and prepare yourself for in regards to knowing that this is the script that's kind of being played out, and there's always all these 7s. Again, why does God love the number 7? And he put it brilliantly, is because obviously 666 is the sign of the beast, which is the sign of man. Now, why is it the sign of man and the sign of the beast? Well, we know through Ashiyanadine's teachings, the 666 is linked into the beast technology. Again, all the gate network and technologies they use with the cube, quantum computers in order to blank slate and manipulate the magnetics, which manipulates DNA and the grids of whole planetary star systems. And then you otherwise have man or humans or any being created in a threefold aspect of spirit.
13, 14 through 15. And the Lord said unto Abram, after Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. So a promise from the Creator to one man, to his seed, this land.
That's quite funny. Why is that happening? Anyway, yeah, so this was Robert Breaker's presentation on Revelation verse by verse. That otherwise he explains threefold aspect, Holy Spirit. Okay, man's made of the spirit, soul, okay, which thinks your psyche, your mind,
now let's go to the next
and body.
verse, and we're going to get into this
okay,
because
there's
a lot of people that say, oh, Father Abraham. So you've got the Arabs that say we come from Abraham. You've got the Jews.
Where is this playing? Shut up. For fuck's sake.
That say we come from Abraham. Well, we're going to get to that because
It's
Abraham
funny how this started around 33 minutes.
And God said to those guys, I give the land, not these others.
All right, okay.
That's why you need the Bible to be able to read it and understand it. Because it says in Genesis 17, 7 to 8, and I will establish my covenant.
Okay, let's get rid of that. Right. So you have Holy Spirit, soul, and body. And so what happens, obviously, when what they've done down here, they've cut us off from spirit. Okay, our spiritual senses are higher senses, higher self, God. Okay, the spirit. And so if you do 2 divided by 3, so we're only a 2/3 aspect, and that represented numerically is 0.666. Okay, whereas a full, complete being is kind of linked in to the 777. And the reason why 777 is kind of like the number of God, and or a completed man, a holy man, human angel, human angelic, is because if you add them up, it comes to 21. 2 plus 1 is 3, and that brings you back to the Holy Trinity of the fulfillment of spirit, soul, and body, all married into one. Okay, so that's why it's very, very important. So you got here obviously a lot of 7s in the Bible. You've got 7 days of the week, 7 neoliberal arts. You got 7 diatonical notes, the 7 seas, the 7 wonders, the 7 visible planets. There's so many 7s everywhere. You've got the 7th letter of the alphabet, it's G. G for God, goodness, grace, gold. Okay, which obviously ties into Australia too. So highly recommend going through this. That otherwise breaks down all the history and the signs of what's going on. And otherwise found out there's a toxicant number 7. which helps obviously with, health issues. In other words, looking at the lightning, how, Jesus Christ or God is depicted, right, in the Bible, in the Revelation of John and his visions, sitting on the throne with obviously the signs of the zodiac, which are the fixed stars of Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, and Leo. And how if you look at a lightning bolt, it's almost like 3 sevens, isn't it? Staggered. And I was thinking, oh, that's quite neat. So obviously I've had a lot of synchronicity with my tree being struck by lightning. Even before heading out to Australia, there was a lot of lightning symbology of, I think they found there was like a totem pole put up on the south coast here somewhere after some like heavy lightning storms and stuff. So there's a lot of like this Thor, lightning bolt, god of thunder coming through. And obviously when I saw Satan the first time opening the door, there was a lot of these wizard gnomes that were kind of hurling lightning bolts at me. And what does Satan always like to replicate? What's already in heaven, okay, where he's come from. And so he's kind of like claimed to be a lord of thunder, felt like a flash of lightning, etc. But otherwise tries to mimic the true God and the power that otherwise, is had and held on the throne up in the heavens, which is obviously what he wants to go after. So he replicates everything in order to convince everyone else that, he is God, and, worship me, etc., take you away from the true God. So I thought that was really interesting. So what I was doing when I was out there, I watched a movie, and I was listening. So the whole time I was listening to Robert Breaker about the great sign in heaven, the book of Tribulation, the Revelation verse by verse. He was claiming that there's another sign that happened this year in September 2023, which otherwise had the same setup with the woman clothed with the sun, moon at her feet, crown of 12 stars, with 3 planets and 9 stars of Leo there, and otherwise about to give birth. And there was a comet literally called Child that was passing through the room at that time, which is obviously, again, replicating this sign in the heavens. So this was kind of like a second sign, which he was claiming to maybe really, truly start the first 7 years of the book of Revelations, which will bring us to 2030, which is all part of their Agenda 2030, right? And he's otherwise preaching a kind of pre-tribulation rapture. But I'm otherwise of the opinion that it did happen back in 2017, and we're now in the 7th and final year, which is going to lead us to September 2024. Okay, so this is all stuff that you've got to consider. But when I went through this and watched this video again, I was parked behind a license plate that had literally Virgo. When we were in September as well, with Virgo, when I was watching that, and I was thinking, yeah, that's very interesting. And so when I was in Oz, I was watching a movie from Shazam, following the theme of the lightning bolts, right? Shazam is all about, the theme of the lightning. And he says Shazam, right, which turns him into this kind of god. And he comes out, I remember pausing to go to the toilet. And it's when I came back, I realized, holy fuck, I paused it right when he walks out of the elevator right here. And what do we have here? 777. By this point, I knew what was going on with this timeline shift. And I was just kind of like having fun and just waiting for the next 777 to show up, right? So he obviously walks down the corridor, we see all the sevens, it's all symbolic. Then he knocks on door 707, all right? And obviously I head down the Gold Coast. Okay, gold, again, linked to the 7th letter of the alphabet, G. Australia is AU, which is the atomic symbol of gold, is AU. And then I remember going to the gym, and I remember coming out of the gym and seeing this bus pull up with 777. And I was thinking, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I was like, everything's ringing true with these sevens. And it's otherwise a translink that, goes from Broad Beach down to the airport there, all the way along that Gold Coast, okay, which is quite interesting. I'm thinking, maybe this is God's special little place, special little haven, where a lot of maybe powerful starseeds had incarnated during this time, or maybe, God's son, maybe something, a very special being had, been incarnated there during this stellar activation cycle. And I looked at the flag and I was like, holy fuck, they got 7-pointed stars as well. So I was like, that's interesting. Obviously there they got the Southern Cross. Okay, unfortunately there's not 7 stars, but there's obviously 1 star in there with the pentagram, which is quite interesting, the 5-pointed star. So I thought that was really intriguing, connecting all these dots to the G, gold, AU, Gold Coast, you've got the Sunshine Coast. Queensland's known as the Sunshine State. Sun is linked to gold and alchemy, as we know. And otherwise got the cross, which is obviously linked to Christ. And I was thinking, wow. And I mean, the people out there, it's a really beautiful place, very laid back. Everything seems a lot more pure. Obviously, they still got the 5G grids set up and stuff over there, but it seems a lot more peaceful, especially on the Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast. Really beautiful place. Obviously, a lot of the people are still a little bit dumbed down, but I guarantee there's probably like specks of starseeds, like anywhere, where there is certainly a lot more, I guess, more of that Christ consciousness as compared to the UK over there in terms of the friendliness, the openness, the politeness, and stuff like this. So yeah, it's quite interesting to observe when I was out there. So there's the bus. When I went up to Sunshine Coast, again, more 777s coming through. I had this little guy hang out on my flip-flop when I came back from the beach. It was quite cool. Again, green, G, little green frog. Then I had this guy subscribe to me on my channel. So I was like, okay. So I think we had like these these cards from, is it Rumi? So I was like, okay, well, let's give him a shuffle and just see whether, you know, another 7 comes through. So I pick out this card, number 16, 1 plus 6 is 7. So I turn to the book and it's explained on page 77. And I remember going to this light exhibition one night and I stopped behind this guy at number 7 with the United States flag, which is quite interesting, again, linked to Colorado. And then G for, you know, 7, dragon. I was thinking, okay, oh, this is getting into the dragons now. This is interesting, golden dragon. So the next morning, I go meet up with my sister, and down in the car park, the first car I see is a dragon license plate in gold. Fortunately, it's not a 7, it's a 9. And I was like, that's interesting. So then I kind of just hopped on Google, put in golden dragon 777. This is what popped up with 33 subscribers, 222 videos. It otherwise doesn't have any other clues for me other than just the number code in there, which is quite interesting. And then obviously, you know, going back to Ashton Dean's teachings of the dragon races, it was all starting to connect, and I was kind of getting the message through from the Guardians, like, okay, this is the reason why you went to Colorado, this is the reason why you're coming here to Australia, this is the reason why you had to endure what you did in regards to doing the grid works. And, you know, as a result of the 777 portals linked to the Dragon APIN, which we'll get into in a second, and these are otherwise the races. It's got the golden dragons, whether I'm connected to that or not too sure, possibly. Then obviously the white dragons with the distorted fatali races, which are fallen Aquarii, distorted newbies like succubus and incubis. That's why, like I said, when I shared with my twin flame event in Denver, she had a snake eye come through. One time when I FaceTimed her and I managed to capture that. That's otherwise this entity. Unfortunately, I was using her, working through her to get to me, to dark flower me. Like I said, there was a lot of manipulation going on in the astrals, a lot of battles of her overseeing attacks and attempts to take me out, which I was otherwise, you know, managed to survive because I guess they didn't know who they were messing with, luckily, and managed to survive because I'm carrying that, you know, fail-safe host coding, and yeah, kind of been around for probably a very long time and used to all this kind of shit in order to help end it as part of the team of divine will of beings that are here to, you know, reset the matrix, as it were. And so, yeah, interesting. Again, I remember seeing they revealed in, I think, the St. George Church in Naples, hiding behind a painting that's like, you know, 500 years old, St. George slaying the dragon. I remember before seeing Satan when he shapeshifted into a dragon, me and him to battle back in March 2021, which was 3.5 years, as predicted from the great sign in the heaven when Satan is meant to appear, which is all to do and connected with the whole corona ritual that was unfolded in 2020 to set the stage for his return, which obviously little did he know that there was other beings laying in wait to take him out, which we managed to do. And I had experiences of being in St. George's Church with all these statues about a week before I encountered Satan, of the heroes, the many heroes that have come before that slayed dragons in the past. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool that they found that. And obviously you got, yeah, again, there's so much about sevens. You've got, you know, the alkaline and acidity level for us to be like right in balance is number 7. So, you know, you can, to the cows come home, basically dissect the number 7. Now this is to do with the Dragon APIN system that I then revisited after going to Australia and coming back and connecting again at number 77 sync in here, which is tied to the golden dragon. And you can see it runs through Australia and also Colorado and what they have planned for Denver. As a result, if they got hold of these APIN systems, APIN stands for Atlantean Pylon Implant Network system, okay, that basically gives them control of the microchips, of the simulation down here, of the manifest morphogenetic fields, of the grids, again, the stargates that control all this energy that come through. He who controls the gates and the consciousness and the energy controls whole realms, okay? So this is why it's been this covert battle of the grids that's been going on for a very, very long time with all these acupuncture sites, these Metatronic wormhole networks, and otherwise fighting over these technologies, these massive, massive crystals that use like microchips that you can program either to do good or bad. Okay, so whoever has control of them, it's like any weapon, like a knife, you can use it to cook food and to feed people, or you can use it to stab and kill people, right? And that's otherwise what the Metatron crew, when they get their hands on, they obviously want to just, basically perpetuate their agenda, which is use it to their advantage to help brainwash the masses, scramble their DNA through the magnetics, and stay in control as false gods. Whereas, obviously the Christic, the Guardians, want fairness, law of one for everyone, truth to come back on the planet. So this is very interesting. So watch this. It's only 2 minutes long, but again, it ties into the sevens again in what was going on in Denver and the reason why I headed out there as well in order to help with the grid work.
Has been since the formalization of the Luciferian covenant in 9560 BC. The intended arena within which the fallen angelic line of throne, or the bed line is referred to as the is planned to unfold, making way for the rise of the one world. If the UIR was successful in one.
UIR stands for United Intruder Resistance, which is basically a group of all these fallen factions of angels that have come together to go up against the Guardians, which is God's race, Jesus Christ, and all the star seeds out here.
Parallel grid line would be used to rip Earth's penetration apart, culminating in splitting of the Northern continent and the Mississippi River. The UIR hoped to make Denver, Colorado, control center and state capital. And where penetration was
They were going to make Denver, Colorado, the US, the capital of the world, or of the US, and basically the capital of the world. When I was out there, I remember having an experience, like I said, of astral traveling down below the airport, and that was otherwise like the galactic center for travel to Earth. It was kind of like if every country has a capital, then Earth would have a capital. It was Denver. And I remember seeing all these jump rooms and stargates that were taking to all these different star systems, like Antares, Pleiades. As you're walking down like a normal terminal, you would, when you approach the gates, they obviously got the different numbers and the destinations. Well, it was like Antares, Pleiades, it was all these different star systems. Okay, so, it's a very important part on the grids. That's why there's a lot of UFOs spotted there. There's a lot of deep underground bases, defense contracting companies like Lockheed Martin. And unfortunately, where a lot of the fallen angelics reside, Lucifer himself, the devil, a lot of, witches and warlocks out there, venerating the kind of temples of the Golden Dawn, which is all linked to Thoth, which is venerating Lucifer, which is, Hermes, Trismegistus, the trickster, Anunnaki, which he played in Sam Jay's Luciferian Anunnaki. So yeah, there's a lot of trickery going on over there using the art of seduction and the reverse sexual practices that go on. But it's otherwise a very, very important site because it also holds crystically a lot of energy and crystal D-span gates, as I showed you before, linked to the 777 and the Charlotte 13 gates too. Okay, so yeah, very, very interesting, very important place geographically because, like I said, this woman said in the book as well, Fashiana Dean, this is where she got all this information from. One of the Voyagers books shows that they wanted to split the American continent in two if and when they actually fulfilled their agenda of taking things over. Okay, which is a big no-no. So if that happens, then yeah, we've lost basically.
The little corner there, that Voyager 2, one little square, what do you think they made about what? The Emerald Company has repeatedly returned to Earth information in attempts to prevent this fallen angelic life end-time scenario from occurring. So I'm just pointing out where I found it right here.
So you can see here, that's where obviously the Mississippi line is, where they wanted to split the North American continent right through and make Denver the capital, which it kind of covertly is at the moment, clandestinely. And then you've got obviously around here, the neck of the Dragon APIN system coming down through Australia, which is quite interesting, which is probably the reason why I headed out there to get a lot of the 777 codings. So yeah, quite interesting.
Okay. This is the Mississippi River line. This is where they intend to split the North American. Yes, physical split. However, we have an update. During the 1260 class, which was July 2007, one-third of the Dragon APIN system was sealed. Okay, so I'm not going to say this is not official information. I'm just sharing some ideas here. The Guardians were given one-third control of the Dragon APIN system. So for me, that tells me, okay, so we have some control, so it might not be so bad. They may actually be able to prevent what I was telling you about the one agenda from occurring. There may not be any problems with then neutral fault, which runs around the Pacific. Okay.
So this is what I mean. Look, 777. Again, so I remember watching this. I had this inclination when I came back to just rewatch this for whatever reason. And it was just confirming to me the reasons why I headed out to Australia and Denver was to help with this Dragon APIN system, the G Dragon, the 7th Golden Dragon race of the Christic races. And I think what's happening, I'm only speculating, but I'm putting 2 and 2 together to say that we've claimed back more of the APIN Dragon network system. I believe that's the message that's coming through, and that's what I'm feeling, which is all part of this process of reclaiming the real estate and these technologies that help control the energies and the mathematics down here on the planet in order to help aid in this shift, which is guaranteed, this Crystal River host. Okay, so yeah, it was like huge, synchronicities to the 7s coming through. And this is otherwise in Robert Breaker's presentations of the 666. We all know everything that's otherwise coded with the Metatronic fallen timeline is either with the 5s or the 6s. I mean, all these numbers are holy to begin with, but the most corrupted numbers that these guys are taking hold of and inverted is the 5s and the 6s, pretty much. Okay, which is why when you come out into the 777s and the 7th harmonic, 7th frequency wave, it is pretty much of, you coming back into perfection, because it is the number of perfection and of God and of your higher self, okay, and out of the 6th, because the 6th was back in 2022 with the 6th of June, 666, and that's where everyone was getting paired up around that time with their false twin flame for them to try and run the reversals in the team of indigos that are down here that are awakening during that time. And there's a lot of us that are very powerful carrying these higher codes that came in around 1988, 1989 especially, so all turning 33 that year. Okay, so there was a huge attempt to try and stymie a lot of our activations, which obviously I experienced firsthand. I guarantee I'm not the only one, but there's going to be obviously not many of us carrying the higher codes, because it's kind of like this down-stepping process as you go down through the frequencies of beings carrying particular codes and how much frequency they can run. It gets fewer and fewer, okay, which is the natural way of how mathematics and eternal life creation is distributed down within the densities too. You split yourself in 12s, right? So as you go up, you pull yourselves back in, from I think around 170,000 odd selves. If you have 5 densities, and each density where you travel down, you split yourself into 12s. Okay, that's a lot of individuals that are of the same Rishi level identity, and that's otherwise running around claiming to be you, but are on different time vectors and space-time locations and different densities and harmonic universes within this time matrix system. Okay, so yeah, the number 7 is very important. And like I said, leading into next year, which will be the 888 portal. 8 is linked to the number of Christ. And that's going to bring us into the new higher octave, which is why I believe the next year is going to be very important. And this is otherwise the 666, which is linked into the Luciferes, what they will otherwise want to set out with the Mark of the Beast system, which people will come to experience who aren't otherwise on the higher timeline, right? It's unfortunate. Luciferes and the patent number by Bill Gates, the gates of hell, are going to be unleashed, right? 666 patent in order to hook everyone up to the CBDC network and the 5G infrastructure and everything else that goes with it. So it's unfortunate for those souls, but like I said, I think the divide has already happened, and it's just a matter of waiting for those who are on the higher timeline for the shift to occur and take place. How that's going to look, I have no idea, but I'm excited. It could just be a subtle shifting of people, places, and events, and change of locations in your life. That can either happen like subtly or all of a sudden in regards to like emergencies, like my mum getting cancer. There's no other reason why I would have head out to Australia unless there was like an emergency presented like that. But obviously having this knowledge and knowing how things are set up down here in order to move people with how your higher self works through the hologram here in order to get you moving, that's certainly a different language and interpretation you can have when knowing that, okay, under the circumstances, it's not great. Okay, wish you well in your healing journey, but I know there's something more deeper hidden behind the reason why I'm heading out here, which obviously, when I'm out there, obviously worked out the 777s. When I came back, more information I came into to confirm that fact. But this is otherwise what's coming for those who are going to be left behind and on that timeline, unfortunately. And you've got to respect free will. They're allowed to explore that. Fair enough. They can be returned to space dust and used as quanta for parasites to feed off of. So be it. They're not really attached to their soul at this level, and they're just expendable. Okay, they're not worth saving. They can't be saved. They're already one of the reversals. And so, say let it be. Okay, you just got to accept it and get over it and move on. And just focus on yourself and the other beings who are kind of here as part of your soul collective family, brothers and sisters, are going to help seed and come back into remembrance and, protect and uphold the law of one, and all that is good in the universe, right? So I remember seeing this with the Robert Breaker presentations on the Book of Revelation series, and then on the flight back home, I remember seeing like a little video clip of an advert of the Cathay Pacific airline I was traveling with, of a DNA strand that looked like a snake. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to do. The serpent brood here are trying to, take over the human race, gene editing, with obviously the technologies, the mRNA, and everything that's going on with the transhumanist agenda. So I saw this, I'll just show it real quick. One of the DNA strands looks like a little snake that turns to look at you. I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I saw what they're trying to do. So yeah, anyway, came back to the UK, and this is only last week. Again, the 777s are coming through still, and I saw one yesterday. So it's like in your face, pretty obvious. And then yeah, we have again, so this is tying into more of the sevens, which goes into the white buffalo woman, okay, and the 7 bloodlines that Christ left behind, which actually there was 8, okay, but there's importance for the 7, and this is otherwise a little snippet that you can go and watch in your own time, again, which is tying in to all these 7s that I came to experience, which is nothing short of magic and confirmation for me that we're on this timeline, 7th year of the Book of Revelation, and we got a lot to look forward to. And the key date to look forward to or look out for is going to be the 8th of the 8th next year, 2024, okay, which is the huge Lionsgate portal. And so yeah, I'm just kind of, anything can happen. I mean, like you said, Jesus Christ is meant to reappear. How that's going to look like, I've got no idea. The stargates are meant to be opening up and coming back online, all of them, okay, the Amenti sphere, the Amenti stargates, the Ark of the Covenant, and these other gates systems that are linking us to the organic pathways back to, more harmonious simulations, time reality systems, okay, is meant to acclaim to be from Ashiana Dean, who's speaker 1. She's an ascended master. She's got full memory of fetal integration, all her past lives, and the council she was a part of, the training that she was very much a part of, during her younger years. She's an incredible woman. She's got a wealth of knowledge. It's just amazing. And is otherwise saying that these gates are coming back online end of this year, circa coming to 2024. So that means to me that if that is the case, people have an opportunity to ascend, but also beings can come back in. Okay, and so someone like an ascended master like Jesus Christ can come back in. And what that could look like, I've got no idea, but that's what I mean. That's why I'm excited, because this prophecy seems to be fulfilling itself, and this timeline is playing out, this script. So it's just a matter of waiting and seeing what is going to happen. Okay, but otherwise, tune into that 777, the 7th harmonic. Okay, which is obviously, if you look at the 7 neoliberal arts, right, you've got the trivium, which formulates the first 3 of grammar, rhetoric, logic. Then you've got the quadrivium that then goes into numerology, geometry, music, and astrology. And everything goes back to numbers. Okay, so numerology is obviously just numbers. You've got geometries and numbers in space. Music is numbers in time. And then you have astrology, which is numbers in space and time. Okay, so you can really, working with these numbers is so very powerful, especially the number 7. So I believe that is linked to God, Chi, gold, all that is good, graceful. Okay, Genesis, creation, genes, and really tune into that frequency, knowing that we are riding this wave that seems to be happening, and it's going to bring us into the higher octave, the higher harmonic, which is going to shift us into this 1,000 years of peace, the millennial kingdom, where all these temples are going to be reset, and we're going to come back into the knowledge of our true self, our divinity, the true nature of the hologram, of consciousness, stargates, agendas, races, history, and being able to come back into being like guardians, human angelics, with the 12, at least base 12 DNA strands, being able to unmanifest, remanifest, and be like gods. Because I've had that experience in the astrals. I've been able to levitate, been able to change colors with things just using my mind and thought, and reverse time, heal people, do battle. That's another experience I had recently. Actually, it was back in Denver, under the airport. There was a lot of Satanists there and like Sith, and it was like Jedi. So I had this lightsaber. I was with another Jedi, and I was able to. He used the Force, but I was able to use electricity, which is quite interesting. Like Palpatine, it's similar to what's the latest Star Wars, where she's kind of like the daughter. She's got the bloodline of like the Jedi in her, but also the Sith. I kind of feel the same. I've got like kind of both spliced into me, but I can use powers drawn from both, the lightning and the kind of Force. But I remember using the lightning, huge lightning bolt, to take out like a load of these enemies that we're doing battle with. and we came up against this dark sorcerer who was like in the middle of this pentagram, which was like a huge ritual site underneath Denver Airport, which was an important grid to start clearing, which obviously was cleared after that. So yes, I mean, we're by no means out of the woods yet, but I feel like a lot of the big players have been kind of taken out, and continue to be taken out in order to clear the way for us to, move into this higher octave. Okay, so yeah, let me know if you're tuned into this frequency of the sevens. It seems to me that a lot of people who kind of are of God, even in like a biblical sense, are really attuned to the number 7 with like Instagram accounts of 77, 777, and stuff like this. So it seems to be ringing through a lot of individuals right now subconsciously, in the grids too, which is otherwise a very good sign. Like I said, bringing us and leading us into the end of the 7 years of tribulation, circa September 2024, which is going to be around the 8th of August 2024. So a huge date to set your eyes upon to see what's going to happen. Like I said, it's always darkest before the dawn, and what's going on in Israel at the moment. These folks are trying to, set up their distractions and, harvest more loosh and fear before the inevitable split. But these guys, getting desperate. That's why 2020 happens. And they're trying to bag and tag as many as they possibly can before the split, because they know that they can't take the whole 4 harmonic universes down, so compromise other systems. But they're always trying to find and take as much of the real estate that can be taken as possible without obviously, causing any detriment to the natural fabric of the time matrices, where it is being reseeded. The God world gates are opened, and all this energy is flowing forth in order to run the mathematics. The energy is needed to reset things. All right, so whether we can stay put, what that's going to look like with this shift, I have no idea. Whether we're actually going to, leave, evacuate. It's kind of like, are we going to, head back up to what Ashana Dean talks about in regards to heading back up to M31, and from there back up to the higher God worlds? We have to wait and see. But like I said, there's a host, 1,000 years. Bible talks about 1,000 years of peace, millennial kingdom. And then Ashana Dean's teaching talks about the crystal river host of 1,000 years, leading us into a future time vector of Eartha, 33 AD. So yeah, I'm excited. It's otherwise all good news, but like I said, you've got to stay impeccable, stay exemplary, focus on the goodness, and set your mind and attentions on that kind of, world that we've all been a part of before, of truth, where all these systems are seeded and founded on truth, on equity, on advanced technology, free energy. Everyone knows the true nature of reality and the connection to source, the unique gifts given to them by God, and their, own soul, unique soul. And so we can, live harmoniously together as sovereign guardians in harmony with the law of one, and enjoying creation, all of what God and these planets and stars have to offer us in external creation. And, for those get an opportunity to head up and ascend up into the high God worlds, now's the time. We'll be learning all about this. So it's very, very exciting with this shift, and how it's going to come. Who knows? We have to wait and see. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned. And like I said, yeah, 8th of the 8th next year. There's a lot that might go down, but it's all very positive. So yeah, take care of yourselves, and tune into the frequency of the 7s and the 8s, and let's help with this shift. And yeah, hopefully see you on the other side. We've got a lot to look forward to. I mean, I can't wait. I literally cannot wait. It's been a long time coming, right? It's been a battle for the last 6 years, but looking forward to this completion and this shift. And yeah, I'd love to. I need to head to Egypt. I feel like I've got to go to Egypt after being shown that in the astrals. But I've got a feeling I might not come back. But wouldn't that be cool to actually take your body this time and ascend and go on to the next step in your journey, up in density 2 or wherever you end up in somewhere safe, on the best possible Christic, organic, eternal life timeline of spin rates, base pulse rhythms, energies, frequencies, and vibrations. All right. So I wish that for all of you listeners and watchers here, and you beautiful souls. And yeah, wish you all the best. Wish you a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and a happy 777 passage into the 888 portal come circa 2024. All right, guys. God bless. Speak soon.